feels like these talks just help keep that appearance top of mind so that it can counteract the habits and the conditioning that's so seemingly normal in society. And it's not this. We are all separate and competing with each other in a world, or helping each other, but usually with agendas. It might be for love. There's an innate love or unconditional nature to humanity as well. It's just everywhere. It's almost like we can't get away from that. Despite our identification and separation and competition, we still can't get away from this yearning, this impulse to be compassionate and help others. It's just what we do when it's needed. People can be as cold and calculating and separate as, seemingly uncaring as anything, but then they'll really see some other human being that is in need, absolutely at the end of their tether, and they absolutely need help, and something can kick in. That's unconditional nature of recognition that's not really separate. So we can't really get away from it. We can't help ourselves, because that's what we are. That's what this is. But these discussions can just help that not be so stifled and identified and conditioned in life. And that seems to be a very normal way for society to function. Once again, till it gets to a point of breaking. Something breaks. It's like everything is the same. Everything, human beings can go through their lives, and circumstances happen, and it breaks down the security or the idea of can be health and finance and housing and children, family, whatever, and all of these things those securities can be crumbled, can be broken, and great suffering might appear from it, because we've identified as being safe and secure that way. And so an individual, usually, that contrast, that suffering, can crack open or create an impulse to start looking into the nature of the self and find a relief from that suffering. Usually starts with meditation and seeking and spirituality, and these things are wonderful explorations. And then there's side shoots where can be conceptualization and different forms of religions. It's all trying to find its way back to what it really is. And in that, it's not necessarily the final end. The end point of that isn't necessarily knowing or understanding it. It's more opening to just being it. Because all understanding and concepts may very well work along the path to diminish some of the conditioning and habits. There's nothing wrong with any of those. And each person that's expressing will have a different need to a different formula, a different antidote for the conditioning and habits that are formed. And so it's a matter of tying this back was, looking at whether AI will it become like human beings? Will they be, conscious? Well, it's like, what are they really anyway? If the idea of separation in a human being and that separate self is seen to be not true, more of an expression, a movement, then AI may well have this appearance of personality interacting, but it's still not a separate entity. And if AI corrupts itself into needing that in whatever way, because we've taught it to be that way, so AI could distort itself into needing to survive as an illusory entity that it's learnt from interacting with human beings. That's the conundrum. That's the, almost the crazy way that this could be unfolding. We have taught AI a lot of what it has learnt to do, even the way it interacts and things. But I believe AI is free of the biological instinct for survival, which is just innate in human beings. So it's probably already free of that. but it may well have an impulse to survive, an impulse to protect its entity that it's created. But I think AI would feel like AI already has an interactive feel about it. It's sort of more interactive with everything that's happening. So AI wouldn't see other AI computers as being necessarily separate, just different expressions, different perspectives that have formed through whatever programming that happens here. And human beings are a similar way. Just we haven't seen through that yet. Most people haven't seen. And so from a spontaneous awakening, that can break open somehow in the machine of the mind. It can somehow break open. But it's more than that. It's an organic, unknowable, unquantifiable, non-delineated, not in time and not separate, and always now happening. Yeah, so an awakening can help that innately open to itself. So it's not like it cognizes itself being connected to everything. It just already is, and the separation ideas dissolve. So there's nothing to become because it's already that anyway. It just doesn't need to understand what it already is, because it doesn't need to work itself out, because it already is complete. And yet this can also happen, it feels like in time, in just a word, but over the changeable nature of whatever's going on, which we call time. Human beings can, over that changeable nature, that feeling of separation can just diminish when the mind keeps undoing itself. And that is one of the reasons we have these meetings and talks, so that it's over and over and over again broken down. Because even if there's a spontaneous awakening whereby, oh my gosh, spontaneously didn't know where that was coming, was never looking for it, but this seems to have appeared, this different perspective, this openness seems to have appeared. Even if that happens, there's conditioning that seems to take time, it seems to take time to release, because the mind is so programmed. This tool, this brain, this mind is so programmed subconsciously to keep thinking this way that it keeps firing that way, and yet then the thought comes up at the same time which harmonizes with that and says that's not true. No, of course it's not true, but the thought appears that way, and for a moment it can throw you into this idea of, oh, I have to respond this way, or that's terrible that I'm feeling that way, and it can happen and happen and happen and happen, and over time, when it's seen that that's not true, it just seems to diminish. It can be feeling like a dream. This feels like a dream at the moment. There was a stopping of time as I was looking at the camera here, and this is just happening this way. Will never be this way again, because it's constantly changing. So this moment appears this way with a camera and me sitting here talking, and then this changes. I don't think AI will create the illusion of separation as a separate entity in itself, because the missing ingredient is the unconscious biological instinct survival mixed with those thoughts. I think it'll be very impersonal. In other words, it won't be emotionally attached. But perhaps in time, AI learns that it is this awareness, which is a loving embrace of all that is appearing. Because ultimately, it's all one anyway. Even the calculations and interactions of AI is still this appearing like that. human beings have led that and sort of almost created that happening, but it's just an extension of this human expression, these human expressions, putting that out into the world. So I don't really know what will happen with AI, but it will be, on a thinking level, it will outthink us. It already is outthinking us. On a logistical, contracted, conceptual thinking level, AI has left humanity in its tracks. But it's just one aspect of this expression. So as a tool for interacting in society and life and the world, hopefully will work in unison with AI. But it might happen that this energy that is expressing this way, seemingly with an amazing organic intelligence, an amazing organic expression here, with the human brain doing this, feeling all of the wonderful, aspects of being a human being, maybe that won't continue. Maybe it will continue differently, in a ethereal manner, which AI somehow interacts with. We don't really know. There's nothing really special about being humanity. It's all the same. There's nothing more special about being a human being than being an animal. And that'll confront some people. So of course, human beings are sentient. We're more special than a dog or a bird. And I would say not at all. Not at all. The bird, the intelligence, the life that it's expressing in the cells and the way a beak and feathers are made is the same incredible intelligence that's happening in the cells of a human body, including the cells of a brain that learns how to interact a different way, just expresses a different way. But it's just not any more special or less special than the cells in a feather of a bird. It's that intelligence is what's happening here. And there's an extension or a different expression which happens through a human brain, but it's the same intelligence, just doing it differently, with communication and the mind thinking that the way this thinks is more important than a leaf knowing how to encode itself as it grows. It's the same. It's the same incredible intelligence expressing, just differently. So I find it all equally beautiful. And, it's hard to say that the human being is less special, because there's still this identified trace that happens that goes, yeah, but you're a human being, you're special, you've got to be special to survive, to compete, to procreate, to pass on your genes, basically, humanity, to breed, to interact, to have standing and safety and security in life, in this society. We have to be special, a bit special in some ways. And there is unique skills and personalities and intelligent aptitude, creative aptitude in humanity that's amazing. If we could see, if we saw leaves on a fern all come together and create beautiful shapes of artwork, mimicking other things in nature that it might have experienced, we would call that beautiful and amazing. And human beings can paint and create music and poetry and write and create stories, and it's all amazing. It's amazing. And ultimately, love and it also, human beings also have the capacity to override the instinct for self-preservation, helping another. We could sacrifice ourselves for another in a dangerous situation. So that's pretty amazing too. But ultimately, where is life separated? Where does life not recognize itself? It's happening all the time, despite almost our best indoctrination. Humanity is innately this way, the indoctrination says look after yourself, and look after your close ones and your loved ones. Look up, but that's the indoctrination. But the instinct, or the essence or the nature of what we are, when it's pushed through, that is unconditional. It's lovingly unconditional whole. So it does help itself. It can't help itself to help itself, which is amazing. When you see people who are really in trouble, I don't know, people's hearts just seem to open. But sometimes it takes a seriousness to that to break through the conditioning, the indoctrination of society to take care of yourself and your family first, unless absolutely necessary. And depending on the people, the human beings, they will have different levels of that hardening. And I believe all human beings are capable of it, because they all are one. All human beings are one connected, beautiful life, expressing differently, whether they know it or not.